Welcome back, Bobcat Nation, to the Region 20 Bobcast, where we break down how our school district works and connect you with the people who help make it happen every single day. I'm your host, Krista Rizzo, and today we're talking about something that affects every student, every family, and every taxpayer in our community. That's everybody's favorite topic, the school budget. It's budget season again. I can't even believe it's budget season again.
I know.
With budget season underway, we are joined by someone who lives and breathes the numbers behind our classrooms, programs, and buildings. Julia Cardillo is Region 20's Chief Financial Officer, and she is here to help us understand how our budget is built, what the priorities are, and how the community can stay informed. Welcome to the Bobcast, Julia.
Thank you.
We're very happy to have you here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Oh, good. And I know, we came out of, it's so funny, I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, you're back in budget season already? And I'm like, yeah, I feel like we got 6 months off and then we jumped right back into it. And I know, the community knows, we all know how tumultuous it has been up until this point. But I feel like this process that we're going through now, for those of you who don't know, we have been spending the last several weeks as a Board of Education meeting with Julia and Dr. Villar, going through literally line by line.
Yes.
We're going to get deeper into this in this conversation about where we're spending our money, how we can save our money and do all the things. So I want the community to get to know you because you've done such an incredible job over the last, have you been here a year yet?
1 full year now.
Congratulations. Yes. We have a year. She's still with us. You guys have just done such a great job and you have been spearheading this and we could not be happier with all the things that you've been doing. And it feels like you've taken such a burden off of our shoulders. So let's get to know you a little bit first.
Sure.
Can you just tell us what a chief financial officer does in a school district?
Sure. So for Region 20, my role holds many hats.
Yep.
So I oversee the food services in our relationship with R20's. I oversee transportation and our relationship there with All-Star.
Yep.
I oversee technology and our relationship with all of our staff here within the district, as well as facilities.
Right.
So I want to dive more into those, but the last year has definitely finance has taken the lead for sure.
Yeah.
So with finance, there's account reconciliations, there's building the budget, there's the audit, there's the grants and student activity funds, and making sure that the district is complying with all of the state regulations and all of our policies that we adhere to everything in relation to all things finance. Yeah.
I don't think people really understand the depth of your role, right? Like you just said, you do all of these things. Most CFOs don't, by the way. Julia has taken on a lot of extra work because our budget has to be so tight, right? And maybe one day, fingers crossed, we will have the funds and the ability to expand our staff and give ourselves a little bit more breathing room for you, right? But for people who may not realize how broad this role is, you sit with so much. How did you come to this role? And what drew you to wanting to be in school finance?
I've always been interested in finance. So I graduated in 2009 with my bachelor's degree in finance, and I immediately started off as an accounting analyst at MetLife out in Bloomfield.
Yep.
And it's interesting looking back because I think all of the roles that I have held have unique experience that have benefited me here at Region 20. So, for example, while I was at MetLife out in Bloomfield, one of my top responsibilities was, it was a lot of accounting in black and white, but I worked a lot on traveling to Boston. So we were closing the Boston office.
Okay.
So I regularly would have to travel to Boston and work with the people there who knew that they were losing their job. So it wasn't always easy.
Right.
But I would train on their processes and review their accounts and how they were reconciling and going through all of their fiscal responsibilities. Yep. And ultimately, I brought all that work back to Bloomfield and merged the accounts, which is very similar to some of the work that we've done here at Region 20. But then I guess what goes around comes around. Yeah. The Bloomfield office closed and moved to the Carolinas. So then I went on to Sabres Partners, which was another company in the insurance industry out in Hartford. I started there as a financial analyst, and then I quickly moved up to be the director of finance there. And when I was there, I managed variable compensation and reports to the principals, all the monthly financial reports, but I also worked a lot on making sure that our expenses were minimal. Because when you work in insurance, you're always looking at that EBITDA. You always want that bottom line to be as big as possible. So my role in that was managing, like I said, the expense policy. I built out a better expense policy. So all of our quote unquote sales managers who were nationwide had a corporate spending card for food and travel expenses. And I would monitor that. And so I was never the person that you wanted to see in your emails. Again, similar, that experience helped a lot here as well. I think I was there for about 7 years, and during my time there, I had all of my kids, so I was able to take a step back. And I think it was definitely having my kids that switched my interest away from the insurance industries and more towards public schools. So I was fortunate enough to take a step back, but when I was home with them, I slowly re-entered the workforce. I started off at Winchester Public Schools in their special education office, where I managed all of the finances as they related to out-of-district tuition and transportation. And I saw how all the special ed side of the finances work. And I also started my master's degree at that point for public administration, knowing that I was looking for this role in the future. From Winchester, I moved to Barkhamsted Elementary School, which was a phenomenal role because that is such a small school. And there I was the fiscal manager, but I wore all of the hats because it is such a small school. So I was HR, I was payroll, I was the state reporter, I did the budget, I did, the audit. So that gave me an overview of the entirety that is really a central office for a school district. But I think I'm a glutton for punishment, and I was feeling a little less challenged. So Region 20, the opportunity was actually emailed to me, and I felt like I was ready, and I jumped on it.
Well, yes. Hasn't been quiet, for sure.
Not been quiet.
That is a really impressive resume, and obviously, with that background, has set you up for success here.
Yes.
And we're going to continue that success. So let's start with how we build a budget. We're going to talk. I really want the community to understand all the work that happens behind the scenes. It's not just us sitting at a desk, or at the 12 of us or 14 of us sitting, around a table on a dais in a school once a week. You guys really do an extremely large amount of work. So walk us through the process of building a budget, and when does the process begin and end? Who's involved, and how we gather input from our schools, our principals, our departments, and our administrators?
Sure. So the budgeting process is really a year-long process. We're constantly thinking of the future, but I would say that it officially starts every October. So in October, I will start to meet with vendors to renew our contracts for things such as PowerSchool and ERP Pro and our business software. I will jump on different consortiums with surrounding districts or towns to see the best fuel rates. I will review the utilities trends, and this all happens throughout the month of October in preparation for the next fiscal year. So the new school year just started, and we're immediately starting to think about the next one. By November, I will send out the new budget request forms that we've created, which we went over last night. We took a little preview of them. And we send those out to all of the building and department administrators, who then collaborate with all of their staff. So they get the input from their service providers, from their nurses, from their secretaries, from their teachers on what they feel they need in the budget to be successful in the next year. So that is a big collaboration that happens throughout the entire month of November. Those are due back by the end of November, at which point the superintendent and myself will sit down with each administrator and go through line by line by line by line of every single request that came in. In December, I would sit with the human resources manager, because by that point she might have an idea of retirements and what contractually we need to pay out for salaries the following year. We meet with our medical broker, our USI for our insurance. All of those meetings occur in December again for the following year.
Sure.
So by early January, we have a turnkey budget, which is what's compiling all of the requests. And we start weeding out from there. And then it's in February that we get the board involved.
Yep. Right. So 4 months, literally, before we actually start talking about it.
Yes.
Yeah. It really is it is a long-term effort, right? And I think the community needs to understand that. Like, we're not just balancing a checkbook. We're building for the future of Region 20, right? And we're trying to keep our most important assets front of mind. And that is our students, our administrators, and our staff. And our facilities, obviously, right? What are the biggest priorities when we're building our budget?
The biggest priorities, I would say, is making sure that our staff feels supported and that they have what they need. So obviously safety and security is way up there. But when I first started, the mentality here was that no one had what they needed and they were afraid to ask, and there was a paper shortage. So we tried to squash that mentality. Not being exorbitant, making sure that everyone has what they need to feel like they could adequately deliver instruction to the best of their abilities.
Right.
So that was definitely a top priority this school year. And even with that, those requests are primarily in Category 4 learning programs.
Yeah.
And that category is still seeing a decrease year over year.
Yeah.
But just making sure that our staff feel supported is a big priority.
Right. What part of the budget typically takes up the largest share? I know the answer to that.
Yes. It's definitely salaries and benefits.
Yep.
So Category 1 is our certified salaries. Category 2 is classified salaries, and Category 3 is employee benefits.
Yep.
And when you take the total of all of those things, which is just paying our staff and making sure that they have the benefits that they are required to have.
Sure.
That's 80% of our budget.
Yep.
So that's not including transportation. That's not including our fuel, our electricity, all of the paper that we buy, the books that we buy. All of that is only 20%.
Right.
So just paying the staff that we have in our buildings is by far the biggest portion of our budget.
Yes. To piggyback on that, because we have heard pushback from the outside, right? How come we pay our teachers so much? How come this? Why do they have this? Why do they have that? Why do we need so many teachers? We've had this conversation in public and on the side, right? Let's talk about why it's so important to invest in our teachers and our staff, and why that's so important to the success of our students.
Sure, because as a public school, people are our business.
Yep.
So our students will not succeed if we don't have valuable staff in our buildings. And I understand right now we have phenomenal teachers here at Region 20, but if they don't feel supported and valued, then they could very well leave. So we need to make sure that we put our staff first so that we attract staff into our district, but also retain the great staff that we do have today.
Yeah. And I, as a parent of Region 20 student, a Region 20 student and a former Region 6 student, I can attest to the extremely high quality of teachers that we have here. We have been very, very fortunate to have the teachers that we have. And, I'm a big proponent of bringing the interventionists back into the schools, and the conversations that we're having, regularly with, regard to staffing in this budget, but also to the success of our students.
Yes.
We had a parent, who speaks up every meeting, who, I love you so much, you know that. But she, speaks about that, and she talks about the expense. I mean, you have a background, part of your background is in special education, right? You know how expensive that is compared to us hiring an employee who could potentially help mitigate some of that expense in the long term, right? So I think we're thinking strategically for the long term for Region 20. I know you guys are. Mm-hmm. I want the community to understand that, because at the end of the day, we have to vote on this budget, and we want to vote on the right things for the right reasons. And I think, that's probably one of the most important ones for sure. Let's talk about hard decisions, making hard decisions, because we've had to make a lot of really hard, bring you to tears decisions in the last year, for sure, or the last 18 months, however long it's been since we've been through this, right? But let's talk about like what happens when requests exceed the available funding that we have allocated for whatever it is we're allocating.
Okay. So today in the system, if someone tries to request something within a line and it's going to exceed, they actually cannot submit that request. They get an error message that immediately shoots back to them, which immediately prompts a conversation between myself and whoever is requesting that item.
Yep.
So in that conversation, our staff have been great at adapting to this, and it's not a difficult mentality.
Sure.
If it's also, when you think about it, we build the budget 18 months in advance.
Yep.
So there's, of course, going to be times when a teacher might, in this budget request, say that they need 10 boxes of crayons.
Yeah.
But then come next year, they say, you know what, we actually need 15 boxes.
Right.
So we just start the conversation of, well, if you need these 5 additional boxes, what in your budget somewhere else can you give up to make up for that difference? And that is how we approach all of those situations. It's a little bit more difficult with facilities.
Yeah.
So in our ticketing system, I know that we have a lot of tickets coming through for, a broken door or a leaky roof or this or that. And when those instances come up, we prioritize.
Yep.
So if it is not a high priority and it's not affecting student safety or security, they're all on hold. So then we can readdress those hopefully in April or May after the heating season, and if funds are still available, knock some of those out. But so it's that give or take conversation and prioritization.
Yeah.
Because projecting June 30th, 2026 is now one of my top priorities.
Right. And so let's talk about some of the hardest budget decisions we've had to make, I guess, as a board and, as a group in the last year.
There's been a lot.
They're hard. There's been a lot.
Yes.
There's been a lot.
Yeah. So I'm fortunate in that I feel like those decisions never fall on me. Right. So my job is to follow contracts and policies.
Yep.
And those, following those are in place
for a reason. Yeah.
So I can't make any difficult budget decisions myself. My job is to show the board and show the superintendent what your decisions might do to the bottom line.
Yeah.
Additions or reductions and how that might impact our 4 towns. So my job is to do that. And then when the budget is adopted, my job is to make sure that we adhere to the contracts, adhere to the policies, and stay within the walls of the budget that was adopted. So I'm fortunate. I feel like most of the difficult decisions do fall on the board.
Yeah. I mean, it has not been an easy process at all for anybody. And, I think if you're sitting in any one of our shoes, you would understand that.
Absolutely.
Right? And it looks different from the outside looking in. But when you're somebody who is committed to everything that this board is committed to be able to provide what we are striving to provide for our staff and our faculty and our administrators and our students first and foremost, those decisions are not taken lightly.
No, it's a lot to juggle.
Yeah. We have done a much better job at transparency in the last 12 months, for sure. I think the board has made it a priority to include the community. I mean, obviously, our meetings are always public, right? And our community knows that they've always had the opportunity to come to any of our meetings. You can Zoom into them. You can join us live. We take public comment at every single meeting. Most of the time we have public comment, so it's great. But for the residents who are kind of on the fringe and they don't really pay attention, but now they pay attention because it's budget season and they want to know like how this is going to be to their bottom line, right? How can residents see where their tax dollars are going?
Sure. So you made a great point that we have a lot of transparent information available on our website. All of our meetings are recorded, including all of the budget workshops that we're having every Thursday this month. This Thursday should be our last one.
Yep.
But also Dr. Villar and I have made it a big priority to go out to the boards of finances of all 4 towns on a regular basis. We're going to Goshen next week.
Oh, good.
And we've also attended PTO meetings, just so that we are making ourselves available to answer any questions that residents may have. I've also always said from day one that if anyone has a question that they can't find online, reach out.
Yeah.
I am more than happy to answer questions. They can email me or call me directly. And I appreciate getting those questions, because then it helps me better understand how to present information. Because sometimes I talk in numbers and I might not make sense.
Goes
to
over
people.
somebody's head.
Yeah. So I always appreciate the questions so that I can, like I said, deliver the information better.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And I think, last year when we were going through the budget season, board members actually went out to their towns and we presented and held, little gatherings for people in our community to kind of understand how to calculate whatever the increase was going to be on your taxes, how to take your property value and multiply it and do all the things. And we have all of those calculations available. Like, all the towns have that. So, this is not, again, to your point, sorry. You guys are going out to finance boards in each town and you're having conversations with the selectmen who are, also being very transparent in this process and attending our meetings. But, I think that's also really important. It's that our towns have now partnered with us in wanting to create this conversation or wanting to be in this conversation. And, they've also done a really good job, I think, of participating and giving us feedback to take to the table and kind of figure out, what needs to happen for the community at large. What do you think are the major highlights of this year's proposed budget?
The major highlights. So there's 2 very exciting things, I think, in this budget. One, you touched on previously, that intervention position.
Yep.
So that has been a big topic of conversation, as you know, in many of our previous board meetings. And I think the superintendent did a great job on how he placed that recommendation.
Yeah.
So ultimately, he's recommending to include an intervention position while also reducing other areas of the budget. So ultimately, it's actually a net decrease to the overall budget and one step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I think that that's incredibly exciting. I think that it will be well received by many of our community members. Another area which we haven't yet touched on, which will be this Thursday when we get into category 9, which, since I'm overseeing facilities, is very exciting to me, is HVAC preventative maintenance.
Oh.
So that's something that we have not had for many years. And it's just your basic boiler cleaners, but we will go over the line, which does have an increase in category 9 to address where we have been lacking.
Yep.
And if we take, again, the right step forward in preventative maintenance, I'm hoping to have to come to the board less with emergency capital contingency requests.
Right. We've had a few of those this year.
Yes, we have.
Not surprising. And, none of this is really surprising. Our buildings are old. They need attention. There has been lack of attention for many years, not just, in the Region 20 year that we've been alive, year and a half that we've been alive, right? Like, this goes back many, many years.
Yes, it is.
And school's out. We're recording this during school, everybody. That's okay. So I think, again, thinking long-term, 5, 10, 15 years for what we're going to need and how we're going to be able to get that for us.
And properly planning, not making any quick decisions.
Yep. What questions do you think residents should be asking during budget season? Let's flip the table on you guys.
Okay. They're welcome to ask any question that they feel is important to them. And like I said earlier, I welcome it. But any question, I think it's important to ask questions that will help them better understand the impact to their own families.
Sure.
So we talk a lot about how the budget is a 4.88% or 4.24%, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your taxes are going to go up 4.88%.
Right.
Because we're also seeing this year an increase in our revenue for fiscal year 27, excuse me. So when you have an increase in your revenues in fiscal year 27, that's going to reduce the impact that the towns each see.
Right.
So asking questions to better understand the overall impact are important because it's certainly not 4.88%
Right.
to the towns.
Right. And I think that's when people start to panic,
Yes.
right? It's like, oh my gosh, my taxes are going to go up $10,000. And it's like,
Right.
they're not. That's not how this works,
Right.
right? And that's why I know in Goshen, we were very committed to having conversations with our community last year, and provided them with calculations at a table. And I had my computer up at Camp Koch, and I was like, okay, let's look at your assessed property value, and we can figure out what your increase is going to be right now. And just doing that for 3 or 4 people and teaching them what that formula looks like, I think it eased a lot of people's minds. It was like, oh, wait, yes, it's going to go up. It's not going up. Like, this is not a cause for widespread panic.
Right.
Also, understanding that, yeah, things have increased. Like, expenses have increased for people. Prices have increased out there in the world. We all know this, which is why we are trying so hard to keep that percentage as low as we can.
Right.
Right. Let's see. What other questions do I have for you? Okay, let's look ahead. What keeps you optimistic about Region 20's future, Julia?
Let's see. I was actually just talking to somebody about this the other day. So I'm optimistic because looking at where we are today versus where we are 1 year ago when I started is a drastic difference.
Yeah.
And when I first started, it was like a feather pillow exploded, and every feather was a different problem.
Yeah.
And they were everywhere.
Yeah.
But we've been weaseling away one by one by one by one. And there's definitely some left out there floating.
Yeah.
But they look achievable now. So just seeing how far we have come makes me excited to know where we'll be this time next year.
Yeah.
We're definitely on the right path. We have a great group of staff in the central office, district-wide, really. But a lot of central office staff have changed. And so I'm very optimistic. We have the new auditor who's optimistic, and they've been incredibly helpful, not only with auditing 25, but also providing valuable input when we are building our best practices and our procedures and giving recommendations. So all of those things combined, I'm excited to see where we'll be this time next year.
I love that. I love that answer, everybody. Love it. And finally, what message do you want to share as we head into this budget season? Like, we're almost done with our workshops. Now we take it on the road and we present it. And, I don't know what the best thing to kind of communicate to the community other than educating them and providing transparency and explaining why we need, what we're asking for is so instrumental in our success. So what do you think is a really important message to send as we head into the closeout of this budget season in May?
I just hope that everyone understands how much work has gone into this process. We touched on it earlier, how, this is a year-round process. A lot of work has been done. A lot of eyes have been on this, which is also a big change from previous years. This is no longer, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people. This is a district-wide collaboration, and we're completely transparent. As you can see with the budget binders, you see every single pencil that's inside
walking into school every Thursday
in the budget. So just the amount of collaboration and effort that has gone into this, I just hope everyone understands that as we move forward. Nothing in the budget was a quick decision.
Yeah. A lot of thought, a lot of planning, a lot of care taken into consideration on everybody's account.
Yes.
And I think I would like to be able to say that, I know I can't speak for the board, but we all appreciate it. And it has helped us do our jobs better. So, I think for me, I've been here since day one on this board. And so to just see the turnover that has happened and, to go from day one to where we are now, it has been a really eye-opening and educational process for sure, for me personally. Good, sure. Let's hope it never happens again.
Good for you.
Good for you.
It will not, no. But you too can see why we're optimistic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm super optimistic. I'm always optimistic. I mean, I always think that there's a way that we can figure it out. Everything's figure-outable, you guys. So, and we're figuring it out. That's it. That's all I've got today. So Julia Cardillo, you guys, thank Julia. Thank you so much for taking time to walk us through this process and help us understand it a little bit better. As Julia mentioned, she is very generous with offering her time. Yes. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out, obviously, to us on the board. And, oh, right, I have one last question. Emer's reminding me, because I forgot to put it on my thing. I like to end these podcasts with just a question of what's for lunch? Like when you were a kid, when you were in school, what was your favorite lunch as a student?
Oh my
Julia's
goodness.
like, oh my God, what?
My favorite lunch in school?
Yeah.
I always would go for the salad bar in the high school.
Nice.
Is that what you're looking for, really?
Yeah, yes. Yes, right? That's what we're looking for. Yeah, Dr. Villar's was it somebody's pizza? It's hilarious what you get.
Oh.
Mr. Zetti was like a bag of oranges, and I was like, this is hilarious.
Oh.
Yes.
I was always a salad bar.
Salad bar, girl.
Salad bar.
Got it. See, now we know more about Julia Cardillo. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us for giving us an insight into this process. As I said before, we are very fortunate to have you. You can't go anywhere. You're stuck with us forever. Region 20, that's the end of it. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being here. And as always, keep learning, keep questioning, and stay curious. See you soon, Bobcat Nation.